Hi, Miss Klein. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Hello.
So welcome, everyone. It
Can
is
you hear
almost
me?
9 o'clock. Yep, audio sounds good.
Okay.
Terrific. So for the guests who are just starting to welcome, join.
Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Hello.
So welcome. It is
Can you hear
almost
me?
9 o'clock. Hold on. Yep, audio sounds good.
Like something weird's happening.
Yeah, I fixed it. Good morning. Welcome on this lovely Wednesday. We're all full of treats today. We've got like Halloween in the air, so thought we'd start off with a few treats. And one of them, as we're waiting on people to join, welcome all the parents who are starting to, greet us this morning. And I'd like to offer to the parents, if you want to go ahead, we have Miss Klein here, who's the Director of Guidance. If you want to start asking questions in the question box while we introduce everyone, that's terrific. We'd love to hear what your concerns are, because the reason we have these meetings is we want to have a dialogue and we want to foster open communication. So with that, I'm going to start off with a poem and a quick Zoom massage and introduce everyone. And then we'll do a little bit of HSA housekeeping, just cleaning up, just giving the status of what's happening in like our world. And then we'd love to hear from you and Miss Klein. So the poem that I'm going to just read is called Anyway. And Beth and I were talking, Principal Javeline and I were talking yesterday about how amazing this community is and how in her 17 years and my 5 years, we've never seen a more open-hearted, really collective group of people that are just so generous with their, with their hearts and with their time and with their volunteering. So sometimes it's nice to be reminded of that. So this poem kind of reminded me of just that conversation. And the poem is, people are often unreasonable, illogical, self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, you will win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest and frank, people may cheat you. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend your years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it's between you and whomever you believe in. It was never between you and them anyway. So in that, I would like to just welcome everybody as everyone's coming on high. And I think I'm just going to do a quick Zoom massage for those of us who are just joining. So just in this moment, we have 27 parents kind of populating. So as we're waiting for everyone to join in, I want to just take a breath in, put both feet on the ground. Sometimes in stressful times, our nervous system gets really, really constricted. And this practice will just help you relax. So put both feet on the ground, take a deep breath in. And this is just going to be a 2-minute practice where you just lower your chin to your heart. And then rotate your head around your shoulders. And then on your next inhale, switch direction. When you're ready, lift your head to the ceiling and interlace your fingers and place them on the top of your head and gently bring your elbows down so your chin is to your chest. And take 3 deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, lift your head to the ceiling and look to the sky. And take another breath in here, opening up the heart space, bringing your shoulder blades closer together, relaxing your shoulders. And then gently lower your hands to your lap. And just for a moment, connect to your feet on the floor. Notice how they feel really supported. Maybe you can put your weight in your toes and then your weight in your heels. Loosening up the space around your ankles by making ankle circles. And take another deep breath in. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin the meeting. Thank you for humoring me. And it is a great pleasure and excitement. I introduce our panel today. We have the fearless leader, Principal Javeline, who is the most amazing person we could have guiding us right now, and her team of superheroes. We have Jessica Zuckerman, who's in charge of Blue House and Red 8. We have Danny Cersoni, who's in charge of Green House and Red 7. And we have Eric Mace, who's in charge of Yellow House and Red 6. And then along with my fellow co-president, we have Alana Engel. And we have as a special guest today to address our mental health concerns, Director of Guidance, Kitty Klein. So welcome, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for taking time this morning to talk to the parents. So with that, Alana, do you want to just update everybody on the HSA, and then we'll jump into questions for Ms. Klein? Or if Beth wants to say anything after that.
Sure. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, and thank you, everyone, for being here. Just a few quick things. You should have all received an email this morning. There have been a few emails about it, but Parent Council is holding a gift card drive for in lieu of the winter coat drive. So please, if you can, donate a gift card or two. Parent Council, these gift cards will go straight to Parent Council. They will collect them and give them out to families in the community in need so that they can purchase items for the winter. And again, you can find the link on the Parent Council Facebook page, on the Weber Facebook, the Weber HSA website, and all of the emails that we're sending out. You'll also may have seen next weekend, I think it's Friday through Sunday, we are doing a fundraiser through 16 Handles. They will donate 25% of purchases back to the Weber HSA. So go out every day and get lots of frozen yogurt. And then finally, as always, just continue to check your HSA, your emails from the HSA, the Weber Weekly. There's always information in there about upcoming events. We're constantly in discussions about how to bring some virtual programs and assemblies to our students. So if you have any ideas, please always feel free to email us, and we can discuss further. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
So welcome, everybody. I just want to if there's sixth grade parents here, I sent an email to each individual sixth grade student. So I just welcome them and letting them know who I am and asking them to write me back. So if you remind your child to check their emails, their school emails, it was just a way for me to be able to connect to your child. I will be doing the same with 7th and 8th grade soon. But I wanted to hold off, so I didn't want to be flooded with 400 emails times 3. So if you remind your child just to check their emails, and I'd love an email back from them, letting them know how they're doing, which will then take off just talking about how to help our children in the middle school. So I was asking for some opinions on how they were doing. This way we could help them here at Weber. I also want to remind everyone that all parents should be filling out the COVID screening every morning. We're at a very low percentage. Only 28% of our parents are filling it out. So we are continuing to take temperatures to make sure students are safe and temperature free to come into the building. But in order to keep our building safe, it's important that that is filled out, that we know that everyone is healthy to come into Weber. And then the third piece, again, I know it was spoken last night at the Board of Ed meeting, Please, please, please have your children wear masks outside of school as well. We want to stay in school, and the only way we could stay in school is if we are COVID-free in our buildings. And if kids are coming to school with COVID, we are either shutting down pods or shutting down the school. And we really, really want kids to be in our building and in school. So please remind them to wear masks. I know it's a lot for them to be in them all day, but I will tell you after school, on the grounds of Weber, they have their masks on, but as soon as they hit Port Boulevard, they are pulling their masks down and walking in clumps without masks. So again, the only way for us to be safe and to be in school is if we're COVID free. So please make sure that everyone is constantly wearing masks, and you remind them to wear masks on the weekends. And I will let you take it away, Ms. Klein.
Well, thank you. First and foremost, good morning to the Weber parents. I have to say that mindful activity and yoga-like is certainly, I think, going to be my new startup for any presentation coming in, because I definitely feel a lot more relaxed than I was a few minutes ago. So thank you for that. I want to thank the parents for letting me have this opportunity to speak about students and their social emotional needs. Whether students are in school through the hybrid in person or they're taking classes through the fully remote, children have social emotional needs. I mean, that is clear, and they need to be met for students' overall development. So what I'd like to do is share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see that. Thumbs up. Thank you very much. Up. Okay, great. So, as I mentioned, students are coming back. And they are, certainly feeling a lot more safe in many ways. They're back in their building. They're feeling a sense of being in their safe haven because it's what they're most familiar with. It's what they feel that they're connected to, some kind of a routine, feeling normal. And this simple routine of just coming back to school helps students to reconnect with others, whether it's direct or indirect, which is important for their mental wellness. For students who are engaged through learning activities, through remote instruction, it can certainly be a struggle. Students are definitely not as connected to students who are in person. And students are, who are under a fully remote instruction. For those who are social butterflies, it's almost as though they feel that they can still connect with other children through social platforms, other virtual platforms. But the students who probably may not be as socially much of a butterfly, it could create some kind of a difficulty. And so interestingly enough, there we go. Okay, thank you. So when we talk about like the social emotional needs, we're talking about students, whether they're in person or they're fully virtual. And we want students to be able to connect in 3 areas that I'd like to focus on that are really important. And the first is to explore feelings. I know sometimes there are familial beliefs and cultural beliefs. And sometimes students are at a young age taught to mask how they feel. And so showing forms of anger or frustration isn't something that should be showcased to the public. And it's really important for students to have the social emotional needs, that they are in touch with how they're feeling and how students can feel validated on how they're feeling. And so it's important as parents and as educators that when students are feeling a certain way, that we can actually say, that's okay that you're feeling that way. Why are you feeling that way? And being able to reflect on those feelings. Social emotional needs also really falls within the realm of connecting with others. And as I shared before, whether students are on a in-person, hybrid, or virtual, this can be a little bit much of a challenge, right? So students, how they connect with their family, whether it's nuclear or extended, how students are connecting with their friends. Sometimes it could be classmates where there's not intimate relationships or connections. Their sense of feeling that they belong to something is extremely important because it's what helps shape who they are as people. Their personal growth and their individual interests are actually customized based on their connections with others and how they reflect with others. And the third part that I think is really important for their social emotional needs is being able to take risks. right? Many of our students sometimes feel confident enough to take risks where the end result, the outcome to which may be favorable or not so favorable because it's not where they hope to be, can certainly sometimes make them feel more inhibited to take those risks. And for social emotional development, we want students to feel as though your efforts in taking the risk are more of the focus than sometimes the outcome. So those are three major parts of the social emotional needs that I think is really important that I've chosen to focus on today. And we'll talk about a little bit of how we can help cultivate some of those feelings and emotions for overall development. Now, many of you may not be aware or are aware, but this past Saturday was World Mental Health Day. And each year I find myself always thinking on this day, and fortunately it was on a weekend, so I was with my family. And, you know, it makes me realize more often than not, just like the increased awareness of mental health, of mental wellness. Am I doing enough as a parent to be able to allow my child to feel a certain way without me wanting to fix it? Right? We want to make sure we take that away because we don't want to see our children upset. But what we're doing is removing how they feel and not being able to validate what they feel. So I was thinking about that as a parent myself. And this day also helps me realize and think about like how much or how mindful am I in terms of allowing my children to talk to me about their feelings as well as me to talk about mine, right? So especially for, you know, for parents who are, you know, the caretakers and the working parents and, you know, helping others, paying it forward. Very often we don't talk about what we're going through. And so our children are shaping their personalities and character based on when I get older, we don't talk about our feelings, we just do. And World Mental Health Day also helps me remind myself and children in general that sometimes when an event occurs that's not very successful, that how do we turn that into something positive? And so it helps create more gratitude in terms of things that we can control. And of course, the day also ends for me as how do we, you know, embrace that balance is really all different shapes and sizes. You know, balancing for one person may clearly be balancing for a different person in a different way. And so there are a lot of strategies when we look at social emotional needs of children and learning and development that I always like to think are important. And the first is rather than focus on what we can't control, and I know we've heard that quite a lot, we really try to focus on, well, what we can control. And that is rather than focus on the lose-lose situation, why don't we focus on, well, what happens if I do this, regardless of the outcome? Where are my efforts and what I can do to control that? Another strategy is creating a gratitude journal. You know, I think the pandemic has created or initiated a lot of us to really reflect on, wow, I'm thankful for my family and my health, and really having a gratitude journal to document how we feel is a great opportunity to reflect. Another strategy that I feel is very helpful is, again, understanding that change in life is really constant. You know, developing ways to embrace the unexpected events, which is always going to happen, is what is going to lead to more resiliency of children. Not everything is going to be set a certain way where things are exactly going to come out the way they wanted it. There are going to be some variations. And so we need to worry and focus more about of how we can control ourselves and how we respond to these events. The next strategy that I think is important that I'd like to share is, and it's one that I find that is not as overly developed, which I think maybe more attention needs to be given, is praising the hard work and effort, not just the outcome. So, you know, very often, sometimes we recognize this, you know, more at like athletic events, you know, where I'm there with my 3 kids and I see, you know, the parents and I'm one of those parents and, you know, my son just lost the game. They're like, oh, we lost the game. But there was no attention or as much attention focused on how everybody played on that team, but you tried really hard. Did you see how you use that strategy that we taught you at practice? And so focusing on the effort and those little milestones of leading up to the outcome needs more emphasis in terms of children's social emotional development. And of course, this is one of my favorites and something that I thought might be a good strategy for parents and educators. And that is, when stress comes, you know, very often conversations, you know, kind of trickle down right after. And for parents who always, want to feel as though we want to help and save our children, that's what we do as parents. Sometimes what we do is we take what they've shared and we're the ones running with it, right? And sometimes students really just want to share how they're feeling without parents having to do anything. And I was reminded of this when one of the counselors actually mentioned to me the other day that there was a student who there was a concern. The parent, of course, spoke with the counselor about some of the concerns that were raised that the child had shared with the parent. And of course, the counselor went to speak to the child and said, how are you? How's it going? Everything okay? And the student looked at the counselor as though, I'm fine. And it was that moment where the counselor explored some further conversations with the student based on what was shared, because the parent asked the counselor to speak to the student, where the student said, I was just speaking and sharing how I felt, not that something needed to be done. And so understand that sometimes when there's anxiety-induced situations or stressful situations, sometimes students will share. And it's a matter of being able, going back to those feelings, just validating how they feel and seeing what it is that they can do to maybe change their strategies moving forward, but not that something needs to be done sometimes, or of course, by the parent. And again, this is a situation that just happened to come about. Staying organized is an important piece to what our current pandemic has exposed all of us to. And I always feel that when students are stressed and they have to shift and pivot in different ways, sometimes they get shoehorned into areas where they used to be put together and organized, and they knew how to kind of like strategize their week, their day, their weekends. And then all of a sudden this pandemic has just really calibrated them. So staying organized is important. And there's some strategies here that I think are helpful. A calendar of events for the family is extremely important. And what I do find is rather than the parent or an adult being able to say, okay, this is what's going to happen this week. And Johnny, what do you think about this? I always say, make this a family activity, because in times like this, there's no better increased focus than to engage in more family activities. And so I would suggest that the student is part of the helm of dictating the activities. And then the parent is serving as like the moderator or the person who prompts, saying, oh, wait, what about this activity? Are you still doing this? And letting the student really drive, the car in this regard. Creating a family shared calendar is important. Those of you, and I'm just using this as an example, those of you who have an iPhone, that's a perfect example where regardless of how old your children are, I have my children's activities on my phone and my family activities are on their phone. So when I'm speaking to a building principal and they tell me their open school night is Thursday evening, I put it right on that calendar where my son can look at it, or one of my sons or my daughter or whatever can look at it and say, oh, wait, I can't make plans to stay after school because mommy's going to be here and there's no one to pick me up. So the family shared calendar actually bridges connections between the adult and the child in ways that sometimes when you don't have the opportunity to speak, it's a great opportunity to bridge the relationship. Celebrating the little milestones, not just the big ones. I've started doing this a lot with my children. Sometimes it's a matter of, you got through this week. I am so proud of you. There was a lot going on in school. Let's go get ice cream, or what do you feel like having tonight for dinner? Forget the meal calendar that we created this week. And those milestones make the difference. So, again, the pandemic has really done a number on all of us, adults to children to all age factors. And I think it's important that we celebrate sometimes the positive events and the little things, just to let students know that, it's not always the big things, those birthdays and those, the holidays, and having structure in place. We all know the importance of structure. We all know that when structures are in place, we tend to have a point of going from point A to point B. And, staying organized basically means that there is a routine, which means there's some kind of consistency. Again, that family shared calendar is extremely helpful. It gives students a sense of what we've raised them to be, where, you have to be somewhere, you have to make sure you leave on time. Do you have your water? Do you have your backpack? Whatever it might be. Predictability, knowing that what is going to happen. When I'm prepared and I know what's happening, I'm going to do what I can to prepare myself to make sure that I get there on time, I'm prepared with speaking, or I have my homework. And of course, the follow through, right? Johnny had a test. It was scheduled 2 weeks in advance. I knew about this test. I also knew that I had double tournament, back-to-back baseball, soccer, and everything else under the sun. And I just didn't follow my time calendar. And I just didn't study the way I should have. And knowing that there's going to be a consequence. I might not perform as well. And what can I do to ensure that this doesn't happen again? And how can I use that journey again, rather than the destination? So those structures are really important because all of this helps to diffuse stress, right? And that's essentially what we want for our children, is how do they decompress? How do we allow them to know that they don't have to be perfect? There is no cookie cutter model of I have to do this in order to do this. And if nothing else, it's the journey that will become more meaningful and more memorable than the actual destination. So, and that's why I think for all of us that we can relate, as even, family members are older, they have stories to tell. The stories are what draw us to conversations that make us feel connected to others in those relationship buildings. So diffusing stress, again, taking a walk, nature, leisure, or family. I've been doing this a lot myself. Mindful breathing exercises. And of course, one that we just engaged earlier, I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with the Take 5 breathing or other breathing. In essence of time, I won't play it now, but there are different strategies to help students to have a sense of, I need time right now. I need 2 minutes, or I need 5 minutes to just breathe, and really allowing students to know how to self-reflect and know when that time needs to happen. And this is one of the big things, to make time for fun-filled family events. I can't tell you how important this is, because the meal planning has taken off in my house. I mean, we're talking about like, those are the days we used to go to Benihana. Like now it's like, all right, we're having Benihana on Thursday night. The supermarket has those frozen Benihanas. We're going to use Benihana. Nothing's changed that night. So being creative to really engage in fruitful type of light-minded thoughts is really great. And I think the game night, whether it's Monopoly or Life, and that's a good one too, or anything, or Uno. I've done a lot Uno with my 8-year-old. He definitely wins all the time, and I don't know how. But, things like that just really lighten the mood, and it diffuses the stress in the children, because it's another part of that brain that's actually working now. Keep children physically active. I worry about the children who are on remote more than the students who might be on hybrid, because given the nature of the situation, but children have to be active 60 minutes a day. Of course, it would be helpful for adults too. So I really try, whether it's taking the dog out or the dog running me, whichever, taking me for a walk, that's how big she is. That is really important. And as important as physical exertion is nutrition. And I think we need to look at what our children are taking in, because all that sugar and all that processed stuff is creating some mood disorientation. And while this presentation is not about, healthy eating and stuff like that, it's really more in terms of, are these nutrients? Am I giving my child enough biotin, niacin, B12, B6? Is that affecting my child's ability to function and to cope with things that might not be going his or her way? And is there is there a withdrawal or whatever it might be with the nutrition? The electronics is a big one. In my home, I will just share, there is no electronics Monday through Friday. There's no TV, there's no anything. I've obviously surrendered to when, the school had given my children a Chromebook for work. But ultimately, whether you're a family that has no electronics during the week or a family that does, I do feel that every day the electronics should be shut down completely, computer, phone, and everything, and put in a common area. Being able to know that allow for natural conversations to take place is very difficult when everyone is connected. We want natural conversations. You want children to talk again about their feelings and what's important to them. And it certainly helps to have the time to do that. And of course, explore interests, because very often students are used to being told what they need to do. And this is what you need to do. I'm going to call. And I think children need to understand that exploring their talents and interests are important, and there is no right or wrong. We're all, wired in different ways, and there's not one particular model that works best. And I'm very proud to say we are a district that has committed to a program called Naviance. And for the parents who might have older children in the district at the high school, you might be more familiar with the program. So if you don't mind, I would like to demonstrate the Naviance program just to help parents know what will be coming down the pike and what students will be able to tap into to help with the development of talents. And so just give me 1 second if you don't mind. Okay, I'm going to bring this over. Okay, if you don't mind, can I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Okay, thank you. So the Naviance program is a communication platform. It is an opportunity for students to be able to learn about different kinds of careers. It is a program that helps the counseling department communicate with families and students about information that might be relevant to them, of their interests. It is, as students progress into the secondary high school level, it is a communication platform for counselors to communicate with colleges, to submit college applications as well, and letters of recommendation. But Naviance is a program that really spends about 70% of its time helping with children's social emotional learning. And there are different capabilities and features. I have set myself up as a 12th grade student. Obviously, for your children, if they're 7th graders, it would be set up for 7th grade. The same as for 6th grade as well as for 8th grade. When students register, they will get a personalized welcome message that I will create for them. And it might be something like, welcome to middle school, 6th grade is an exciting year, or welcome to 7th grade, whatever it might be. And students will have something called My Favorites, and there will be opportunities for them to do a college search, especially for grades 7 and 8, if they're thinking about colleges or they visited a college for their older brother or sister and they want to learn more about a particular school. But really what the program in middle school is all about is really understanding the sense of self. And so what I'd like to do is just show you or demonstrate briefly on the tabs up here that we'll be focusing on with the children. And again, this is going to be a year to 2 years of unveiling the program and having the program set up for students to access. So I'm going to start with the About Me. Under the About Me, students can click on My Stuff and they can take a survey. If we want to know how children are feeling and we want to create a social emotional survey, we would upload the survey or create it. And then every time a student logged into Naviance, there would be a pop-up that says, please take this brief survey. There's a resume feature. This is really exciting for a lot of our children because many of them are always like, well, when can I get a job and make money, right? They all want to make money. And so as early as, the age 14, sometimes people will in fact hire children. And so that's important, sometimes even younger. And students, what they would do when they click on resume, oh God, extend my session. Sorry. Oh no. My apologies. It's not responding and I don't know why. I'm so sorry. Let me just try to see if I can log out. Sorry. All right, let me try this again. All right, I will try this again. Okay, so let me try this and resume. So on the resume feature, it's somewhat child friendly. Students would click the plus sign to add activities. So if I wanted to add where I go to school, I would click on education. I would of course put Weber Middle School. And if I wanted to add anything, my volunteer service, my, awards if I got, the best part to all this is once the information is here, it's housed throughout high school. And then if a student needs to get a resume, all they do is click prints. and it will be formatted. I'm not going to print it right now, but it will be formatted in a resume document so that when a student is looking to get a job, they don't have to worry about, oh, the employer wants me to create a resume. Mom, how do I do a resume? It will already be there, and all they have to do is click print. The About Me section also allows students to journal anything that might be going on. They can chronicle things in their life that are really memorable that they'd like to reflect to or reflect on. The My Planner is something that I think is extremely important for our middle school students because it allows students to create goals. And that's part of what the counselors are doing each year now with the IPR. And for those of you who may not be aware, the IPR, the Individual Progress Review, is a requirement that the New York State Education Department came out with as early as July 1st, 2019, where certified school counselors must meet with each student individually to review goal setting, their social emotional wellness, as well as college and career exploration. And again, based on the grade level, we can certainly know how much to go in depth versus, how much to kind of like, have more of a shallow conversation. We certainly don't want students thinking about college in 6th grade, but some of the skill sets that might be interesting to them. Students can create goals. They would click on the plus sign. And I can't do that now because I'm on a live demo, but you would be creating goals. And very often if students have projects and things that need to be met, they can create to-dos. And then every time a student logs onto Naviance, it would populate. So the program really works very favorable for students so that it works with them and works for them. The students aren't working for the program. The My Planner feature allows us, and this is also another important piece, to assign tasks to a student. So if Weber Middle School or the building administration, whether it's assistant principal, said that we need all our students to complete this task, we can have the students do that in Naviance, and it allows us to house information there so we don't have to worry, where is that document? Did we collect that information? And it becomes almost like a one-stop shopping. I always like to say Target because, you go in there for, I don't know, cream and you walk out with bananas, cream, at least that's what happens to me. The beautiful feature of the careers piece is, students are in home and careers and they are looking at different types of vocational interest. Students can explore careers and take interest inventories like career clusters. They can do, if they wanted to research a career and this was assigned by one of their teachers, they can go right into the Naviance program and do that. And the other part that I really enjoy about the career is the career cluster finder. So when students take a brief assessment about, what interests them in terms of different types of careers, when the results come out, students can actually go and review a career cluster, which means some crossover careers that also fall within the umbrella of that career, so that students are really exposed to things that might be opportunities that they would not have thought about. So the Naviance program is certainly something that I'm very excited about for the middle school. I think it will help. And of course, there are a lot of talent search programs in here and, different kinds of programs and utilization. And I guess I will, if you don't mind, open it up to questions. I hope that was, I hope it wasn't too much, and I apologize.
No, thank you, Ms. Klein. I think that was really terrific. And I'm gonna let you stop sharing your screen.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do that.
And then what I loved about everything that you just offered is that at the heart of it, it's connection. And Naviance to mindfulness to the strategies that you offered, gratitude journals, taking a walk, having family fun. It all comes down to connection. And that's what our community is really good at. And I know we have a lot of questions because we do have a lot of parents who are nervous that their kids are not getting connection. So, but before I open it up to questions, Beth, did you want to speak to Naviance at all? Or Principal Javeline, did you want to speak to Naviance at all? Or can we jump into parent questions?
Oh, I would jump into parent questions. I know Kitty and I have been working together to start it in the middle school this year. I have training in it shortly to upload all the data of our students, and then our counselors will be working with the students and getting information put in there.
Amazing. Thank you. So, Ms. Klein, So some of the parents, especially I think of the sixth graders, are finding that because Weber has houses and kids are in specific groups and they are either in school or out of school, they're not meeting as many people as the parents would really like them to like connect to. Do you have any strategies or any? I know as the HSA, we're going to be offering some virtual events that are going to connect everybody soon for the six mix. But are there any other strategies for kids who might be feeling isolated or lonely that you could suggest?
Yeah, so first and foremost, one of the things I want to share is each year the counselors meet with particularly in their sixth grade, I'll just focus on the sixth grade for now, in small groups. And part of that group work is to allow students to feel and explore interests that they think might be unique to them, but really there's a lot of overlap and common themes and interests. Because of the current situation we are in where we can't congregate children together in groups. And we have obviously a challenge of students only being in school 2 days a week because, and they're losing direct instruction from a teacher. We're trying not to pull students out of class because of that particular situation. And this is a huge challenge for us. The counselors and I are looking at ways that we can try to set up those groups to still have drop-in centers, if you will, drop-in sessions. We are trying to really check in with students. A lot of the counselors have already been meeting with their students to check in to see that they're feeling okay, social, emotionally. So once we try to have like that kind of a needs assessment of which students need a little bit more social connections, they will certainly create some, group sessions that students can, certainly drop in, if you will, virtually.
And then do these groups happen for all ages or is it just sixth graders?
Yeah, so the sixth graders, we prioritize always usually the month of September and October because they're walking into a new building. We're really trying to help them acclimate and acculturate into a new environment. But it's really for all students. If there is a group of students that feel like that they need a little bit more, I don't want to say hand holding because they're not babies, but a little bit more coddling in terms of making them connected or formulating connections with other students, we certainly do that for all grade levels. And then, I was just going to say, and one of the things that I think is also important is that we rely very much on the parents communicating with us, right? It goes back to the social butterflies versus the non-social butterflies. The students, and I've observed some of their work. I mean, I've seen students that, they're in those groups and they're charging like, I want to be this, and they're taking leadership roles in a group setting. And then you have the students where if we didn't pull them in guidance, if we didn't, ask them to come and meet with us and participate in a group, they would have never, joined on their own. So we rely very much on the parents to also share with us any concerns that they have about their children and what the needs are.
And then I know that like in March, my daughter really pulled away and like really isolated herself. So do you have any advice for parents who are struggling with their kids and watching this happen in real time?
Yeah,
what can parents do?
Yeah, that's really hard. It goes back to the slide I put on, and I was very hesitant because I was like, do I really want to, I'm sure parents know, but I go back to sometimes students are pulling away because there's been a major abrupt change to their social connections. For a lot of students, coming to school is the only way they can connect with young-minded individuals. For some students, they just don't have those social skills to be part of the group where they're always invited in a group. So wherever a child may fall, I think it's important that parents need to peel out and really just almost like jump in and say, come on, let's go do something today together and have more of that bonding experience. Not to say that that does not exist, but now more than ever, I find myself as a parent of 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and each one of them has their own personality. And I pray, I'm always, it's changing weekly. But I will tell you that I'm very much like, I'll have alone time. And I think that's one of the most difficult challenges for parents of multiple children is, well, we're a family, we go together. And that's how many of us was raised. But it's really important to coordinate time where I can make my older son have a play date at his friend's house. I can have my husband take my little guy and I can just be with my daughter. and I can have that day for her. And then again, the next day I can do the same thing with my younger son and, work around whatever it might be. I just think it's so important to connect, to engage in more familial activities today, more than ever.
I just want to add one more piece. I'm sorry. Just if you find that your child at home is not connecting, it's important that you reach out to your guidance counselor, because we're not mind readers. We don't know that. So we could help if we have the information. So if you feel that your child is struggling academically, socially, it doesn't matter what you're feeling, but if you're feeling that something is off at home and you need some assistance, it's really, really important that you reach out to us, because we don't know. And often what you see at home is not what we are seeing in school. Kids hold it together in school. Kids look like they're managing in school. Kids are not often breaking down in school. So it's really, really important that if you feel that your child needs to be spoken to from a guidance counselor or a social worker or a psychologist, that you reach out to us, and then we can help facilitate that. But again, we won't know what's going on unless you reach out to us.
And some parents are afraid their kids won't open up to a guidance counselor. So do you have any comments about that?
Kids open up to people they feel comfortable with. So the only way you get comfortable with someone is by meeting them and talking to them. There's no one that's gonna, wring them around the neck if they don't talk. They may, we may know that we have to meet with them 2 or 3 times so we can make a connection. Often it's finding out what they like and just talking to them about something they like to get them comfortable. But again, without having those relationships and without connecting to someone in school, if it's not a guidance counselor, it could be a teacher. It's really, really important that students find a connection of an adult in the building that they do feel comfortable with, so they can share whatever they need to share. And sometimes, believe it or not, they share more with us than they will share with you at home for different reasons. We're in a no judgment zone. Kids make mistakes in our building. Kids explore. It is starting the age of exploration. They may not want to tell a parent that they're trying something, but they will open up to us and let us know that, and we can help guide them. And if need be, we will get the parents involved. But it is really, really important that students do connect to an adult in this building.
If I can just add one more thing, just to build on what Mrs. Javeline just shared, the beautiful part of the counseling department is that it consists of school counselors, psychologists, social workers, and it is very, very much appreciated in seeing them all in action, come together, meet as a team. And, like the saying of every child and every person needs a hero. If it is not the school counselor that the student is connected to, and it's the social worker, or there's a relationship that's been established with a teacher, just creating those support beams in place so that there is a connectivity and there is some connections is important. So I also want to just share, if I can, circle back, if you will, to one of the slides that I mentioned. When a child is detaching themselves from home and they're feeling a little bit, aside from trying to increase the familial connection, it goes back to helping students feel comfortable to talk about their feelings. And depending on the home, how frequent you converse on, it's okay to feel sad. I feel sad today, or I had a really bad day. And sometimes when children are able to know that I can talk to mom about feeling sad and she'll be okay with it, sometimes they mask it because they're worried about how their parents on the receiving end might feel it. And it's okay for them to feel sad. And sometimes a good cry too. And then the next day they feel great. So I just wanted to share.
I also wanted to add that we meet weekly with our teams. So our assistant principal, our guidance counselor, sometimes our psychologist, sometimes our social worker. We meet with each team weekly. So we discuss students, we discuss concerns that we have, whatever those concerns may be. If we see a pattern happening in a specific team, we bring that up. If we see things that are happening on the weekend that we need to share with the team. So it is important that if you know something, that you do share it with us so we can address it on a school level.
And then just one question from an audience. We are recording this on YouTube. So if anybody wants to watch the replay or have this wisdom kind of live on, it'll be there on the HSA Weber YouTube channel. So that's there. I
have something because we do get a lot of questions and concerns from parents. Now that the kids are home, more than half the week, the parents have become a little bit of the teachers to some degree. So, they find that they're overseeing some of the work their students are doing, their kids are doing. They're having to check their binders and keep them organized. So my question is, things that used to be done in school, the kids were in school all week, so the teachers kind of dealt with this. How much should parents be getting involved at home? How much should they be looking over their child's shoulder? And how much, should they be guiding their child to go straight to the teacher? I think there's a lot of stress on the parents' side in addition to the kids. They don't know how much they should be getting involved.
I don't know. Okay, so I didn't know if
I didn't know who, yes.
I was just like, I don't want to step on.
I didn't know if one of the APs wanted to answer also.
Okay.
Any of the APs? All right. I think our role as parents is to oversee and not really get involved too much. This is the age where we really need to get our students to be responsible. So you can ask them questions, you could guide them, but I would not be doing anything for them at this point. It's really, really important that the students start getting the responsibility. They are becoming young adolescents, or they are at young adolescents, and it is our responsibility as parents to guide them and help them. And students listen to teachers in a lot of ways more than they'll listen to a parent. And what happens at home is you will get into arguments with your kids that you're not doing it a certain way. Their teacher may want it a different way. If you are struggling with something at home and you feel that your child should be more organized, reach out to the teachers. The teachers will still get involved, even though it might only be 2 days that they're in school. Our teachers will still very, very much be involved with your students. They care about the students. They want the students to be successful. But I think as parents, our role is to guide them, right? So like if you remember when our kids were starting to walk, if you put them down, they fell down, you picked them up. You didn't walk for them. And it's kind of the same thing. If they fall down, it's our role as parents to pick them up and guide them, but not walk for them. So we don't want to be organizing it for them, because then they're not learning the rules, or they're not learning what they'll need to be. And before you know it, unfortunately, they'll be in college sooner than you think. Time goes fast. And we really need to teach them the skills that they need to have in the real world. So I hope that answered the question.
And I 100% agree. I just will share that one of the things I find myself as a parent doing is, reflecting, what do you think you need to do? Do you feel that you have everything? If you were with Mrs. So-and-so right now in her class, would you feel confident to open your backpack and say you have all, your supplies and tools in here? And I do want to share that, part of the adolescent stage, which is where your children are in their tweens and teens, is they want to be independent, and they're thirsting for it. And I'm always reminded of, two major, educators. One is a parent and a teacher, and her name is Jessica Leahy, and she talks about the gift of failure. And not that students should fail, but it's okay if the outcome doesn't, result in what was, hoped for or expected. And being able to see, all right, how do I make sure that doesn't happen again? And the other one is obviously, Carol Dweck, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, the power of yet. Students often are saying, I can't do that. I don't know. I keep forgetting. And it's a mantra that I keep, that, well, you can't do that yet. So let's try to work on building the skills so that you can do that, because I know you can. And I feel that as parents, when I'm asked that question, I'm always reminded of those two fine educators, because it's okay for children to ponder, to reflect, and to self-discover. And as parents, we just sit there and just say, oh, okay, almost like a moderator, someone who's prompting, not leading. So sorry if I just, added too much, but.
Yeah, thank you. So do we have any more questions?
I mean, there was a question about binder checks. If you feel that your child is disorganized and they need their binder checked, please reach out to their teachers, and their teachers will make sure that they assist with that.
And maybe one more piece of advice while we have the valuable Ms. Klein available. Do you have any suggestions for parents who are extremely stressed, and maybe what's sometimes when we focus our attention on our children, because that does tend to be where our heart goes, but maybe are there any things that parents can do to be more attentive to their own needs?
That's a great question. I think it's probably best answered with, what is it that makes a parent feel completely disengaged from what's causing their own stress, right? So for some parents, it's really turning to their children. For others, it's not. That was a joke. But, really, for some parents, I actually, a parent who I spoke to the other day told me they went back into, golfing. And I was like, I didn't even know you golf. And, it was because, I used to years ago, before kids, before family. So sometimes it's a matter of parents, kind of self-discovering back what they used to first feel like as people, and what it was when life was bliss, right? Before the family, before the kids. And I think that's still important. I think parents are adults, parents are people, and parents feel the same way as children and anybody feels. So it would really be like trying to find your inner self in terms of what can help you decompress so that you can be the person to support your children. When you get on a plane, for lack of better analogies, they always say when that oxygen mask comes on, you first put that oxygen mask on you, and then you put the oxygen mask on your child. Because if you can't be okay with yourself, you can't care for others. And so, again, that's just, some advice to think about. And of course, listen, there are therapeutic sessions. Family North Shore Child Guidance offers a lot of parent groups for particular situations. In the current pandemic, they were free. They're still doing it. And, I'm happy to be a resource to help any parents or families that might need, whether it's, some support. So, please just feel free to reach out. I do thank you for this wonderful opportunity, but I'm available, for anyone who might need to reach me. Thank you.
Kitty, I know you talked a little bit about social media before, but if parent has a question that maybe you want to add to a little bit. It's the role of social media and disconnecting time, and some guidelines maybe that you already shared, but maybe you could share it again. Parents are concerned that some kids may be turning towards social media for some connections.
Yeah, so I will share that it's really important that students are connecting socially with their peers. And if you are a family with medically fragile children or autoimmune compromised familial members and family members, you need to make decisions that work best in your home. Those decisions should be somewhat working in conjunction, if you will, with what technology or technological usage is in your home. So social platforms that students are tapping into, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, whatever it might be, that's something that every family needs to evaluate with their children and discuss. When I talk about social connections, I'm talking about FaceTime. I'm talking about connecting with live people, almost like synchronous conversations with friends. Of course, I'm doing everything I can as a parent to order heat lamps, to having kids socially distant in my home. But for the children who just don't have those luxuries at this time, then it is a luxury. Really just mitigating some of the social platforms that are not positive. I'd prefer a student connecting group, FaceTime than having a student on a social platform where other students are joining in. For the children, a lot of it is Fortnite, a lot of it is Roblox, a lot of it is everything where it creates more angst and more stress. And, I would just say parents really be part of that. I have a rule, when my kids are engaging in social, media, like there's a time on there. I restrict their time. When they're connecting with friends, I give them their time to be private and be with their friends. But there are time limits. And I do that in increments for a reason, as anything longer than a particular time, nothing good comes out of that, right? So we have to keep it in small, increments. And really, I also feel that parents should be reaching out to other parents to say, I'm in this situation. Sometimes the parents, like I'm a working parent, like I depend on my children's friends' parents to say, I know you're working, you probably won't see this till 7 p.m. when you're done, but I'm doing this. And, and it's just so invaluable. Like I didn't know one of my children's friends' parents, their kids is completely online and is not allowed to do anything. So it helps to communicate with each other. This is a beautiful community here in Port Washington. And I know everybody cares and everybody wants to help. So we just have to not assume that everybody knows what's going on with the other neighbor or family.
Someone also asked what we're doing for staff and mental health with staff. It's a conversation that we are having regularly. This is a stressful time for all of us. And we're all experiencing, whether it's a child, a parent, a teacher, an administrator, this is different for all of us. So we're often saying this is, we're all first year teachers all over again. We're all first year administrators all over again. So it is something we talk about regularly to try to also help our staff with mental health as well. It's not, it's important both on all levels, on the students' levels, as well as our staff, as well as parents, because we know that everyone is going through a hard time and challenging times right now. So thank you for that, who asked that question.
And then as we wrap up this wonderful conversation, we have one more question about scheduling and timing for how you keep your middle school getting into class on time, especially when they're at home. And I can actually offer a couple of suggestions because I have experience with a lot of kids these days. So we have found that if they are allowed to have their phones, setting alarms on their phones right before their class time, like you have a science alarm, you have an English alarm, you have a core extension alarm, whatever your classes are. And that's been really helpful in keeping the child kind of on track and focused. If they're not allowed to have electronics, we have the schedule printed out and I laminated it, and every child has a copy of it, and it's glued basically to their right hand. So that they know where they have to be, and they are told to check with their Google Chromebook, because there's a clock on the right-hand side, to just make sure that they're maintaining the proper schedules. So those are the two suggestions that have been really helpful for our family. Anybody else have any ideas? Keeping kids in class on time?
No, but this goes back to also just being responsible. Once again, it's sitting down with your child and trying to come up with something together. Whenever we give something to a child and says, here, do this, it's ours, it's not theirs. So if you sit together and come up with something that might work with your child, would it help if we have a timer? Would it help if we have a schedule next to you? What do you think would work for you? Having those questions and dialogue with your child will also help communication and help them be successful in school.
Yeah. And I think that's really a great way to wrap this up, is having that communication with your friends, with your family, with your teachers, with your guidance counselors, with your children. I think that's really what we can only facilitate more and more of. And we started this community, we started this conversation because our community has so much heart. And I feel like that's really what we all have to offer each other. We're in this together. So whatever your situation is, it sounds to me like reach out and just say hi to somebody if you have a great situation, or reach out and ask for help if you need it.
Right. And don't be embarrassed. Don't feel scared to reach out to the school, or that your child will be targeted, or that we'll look at you differently because you're struggling. We get things on all gamuts. We're here to help. We're here to help your child. We really want your child, your student at Weber, to be successful here at Weber and ultimately in the world, after Weber. And that's our goal.
That's our dream as parents, right? To have thriving children. Well, thank you, Assistant Principals and Ms. Klein and Principal Javeline and Alana. I really am so grateful for your time and your wisdom. And this will be on YouTube Live. It's on YouTube recorded. So if people would like to rewatch some of the strategies that Ms. Klein suggested, they'll be there. And I really highly suggest doing it. That Take 5 breath is such a wonderful exercise. You could start it off with your kids in the morning before they like jump into their day, and it actually will change their body chemistry to make them more focused. Sounds like a crazy thing, but it's true. Science has studied it. So I highly recommend going back and looking at her resources, and look forward to hearing more about Naviance and all of that exciting things as they unfold. And thank you, everyone. All right, I'm signing off unless there are any final words.